Welcome in, guys, to another episode of Bankroll Blitz. It's your boy, Mr. Brad Thomas, and my buddy Bobby at PropHolliday. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We were talking about it before. I'm 1 week out from my wedding, and I'm pretty pumped. But I still got my focus on some NFL stuff, at least for this week.
Hey, one more week, and for those who don't know, we're going to have another surprise guest next week and a surprise host for you guys. But, before we get into our guest of this week, I just want to talk about last week's gut-wrenching Atlanta Falcons kicking game. Listen, since when did the Falcons know how to be an efficient red zone offense? There were so many 3rd and 6 plus where they had an opportunity to kick a field goal if they just incomplete a pass. One, Cordell Patterson literally reaches over to the defender and scores a touchdown. If it weren't for him, we're cashing. I'm 2-1 and hit that 2-unit play, but it's a new week, man.
Yeah, I'd rather not talk about last weekend. I've had a rough couple 2 weeks. Obviously, I'm not throwing in the towel on anything. You can tail, you can fade, you can ignore. It's up to you. I had a couple plays that were right on the hook, which really flips the difference of a whole weekend. But I'm looking forward, man. That's the way you got to be.
Hey, man, it's a new week. And with that being said, I'm so honored to have this guest. This is one of the legends, the OGs in the prop game. We have PropBetGuy joining us. How is it going?
What's up, fellas? How are you? How you doing?
Dude, so excited that you're joining the pod. And for those who don't know, we're going to go round robin style, talk about our picks, and we have some PropBetGuy plays for you that are going to make us some money. I'm going to start with my first play of the weekend. I like to continue this 2-team teaser action. It's going to be the Buffalo Bills, who will be getting 6 points, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be a 4-point favorite after the 6 points from the teasers. Listen, I'm going to go ahead and start this off. I talked about this in the last podcast, that there's no real reason to back Kansas City unless you just think the primetime effect is going to take Kansas City. They're ranked 30th against the run, and Buffalo's a great running team. They're 31st ranked defense. They're dead last in DOVA in defensive efficiency. And this Buffalo Bills team, I don't think they're going to win, but they're a live dog, and they have every opportunity to win this game if they want. I think that there's too many times where we get so enamored on the name brands of the Chiefs, where we're just blindly backing them. Now you're giving me 6 points to make them kind of that 9-point buffer. I have to take it. And for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I told you guys that I really enjoy backing teams and teasers that I think can cover the original spread. Well, I'm getting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're giving me 6 extra points, bringing them a 4-point favorite. Miami, they had every opportunity this season to be an elite defense. They had no real excuse, but they've underwhelmed. It's been really difficult to watch for those who wanted to believe in Miami and those who wanted to believe in Tua Tagovailoa. He's injured now. That offense just scored their first passing touchdown with Jacoby Brissett. I really do hope Tampa Bay gets Gronk or JPP back, because you saw in the passing game there were times when Brady was trusting Brait for those catches that Gronk normally would make. But I think that this is a great opportunity to make those adjustments. For Miami, a lot for them would have to happen for them to keep up. They're only averaging 15 points per game. Lost Will Fuller. Their run game is non-existent. And this is a run game that's averaging 78 rush yards per game against the number 1 rush defense. I just don't see them keeping this one close. And I really do like this. You guys have any thoughts on this teaser?
No, I mean, Bills Chiefs, I think we can all agree it's probably one of the possible AFC Championship game previews. Getting the 9 points feels good. I know you mentioned that you don't think they're going to win. I actually think they can pull this off. I love them as an underdog who's the last 3 weeks, outside of week 1 performance against Pittsburgh, they're playing a lot better football. I mean, last week they played Houston. It was a blowout, but they're really starting to click and settle down because there was no preseason. So call week 1 their preseason. So I think that's great. And then the Bucs play, they should cover on their own. So taking 6 points off that seems too good to be true for me.
Yeah, I just think that sorry to cut you off. I misspoke when I said I don't think they can win. I think they're a live dog, and I think that this is going to be one of those games that if the Chiefs win, it's going to be one of those comebacks, where they win towards the end of the game. Thoughts on this?
Yeah, the Chiefs offense is the Chiefs offense. The Bills are going to have a tough time stopping that Chiefs offense. They're rolling. Mahomes looks great. But the Chiefs defense it looks like they've taken a step or two back, and now they are playing Josh Allen, who is they're just absolutely demolishing teams, the Bills, and they're not even clicking on all cylinders yet. It's scary. Zach Moss is emerging. Stephon Diggs hasn't even had one of his Stephon Diggs type games.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a shootout. And like you said, like when it's a shootout and both teams are scoring back and forth, 9 points is a lot. So I really like the Bills to cover that. And I do think they can pull off the upset. And then with the Bucs, I mean, look, hey, their weakness is their secondary. I don't know if Jacoby Brissett can throw the ball more than like 15 yards down the field. He's going to be throwing a lot of those short, quick outs. He'll get his completions, but those fast linebackers of the Bucs are just going to feast on those out routes to Waddle, to Gesicki, to whoever's playing running back of that three-headed trio that Flores insists on using instead of using Myles Gaskin like I think he should.
Yeah.
I like this teaser a lot. I think both teams here could win for sure, with the Bucs winning by a few touchdowns.
Awesome. I know that you have a play, Bobby, in this game. Go ahead and lay it on us.
It definitely ties into the theme of this being a blowout. And I am going with Mike Gesicki over 3.5 receptions. It is minus 150, which is a little bit chalky, but it is for good reason. So I look at the season with Gesicki in two different forms. I look at it in the first 1.5 games with Tua, and then the last 2 with Brissett. In the last 2 with Brissett, he really is the number 1 target with Waddle close behind. He's seen 26% target share in the last 2 games. And I do also think Brissett's probably going to drop back 40-plus times. And if you look at the game script, if you look at the actual matchup, we have the Bucs. They're 32nd in the league in opponent passing play percentage. They're dead last if you want to look at it like that. The other team is passing the ball nonstop against the Bucs, mostly because you can't run the ball. The other side is because you're down in points. So it plays into the theme of passing. And then the Miami Dolphins by themselves, offensively, they're ranked 4th in the league in passing play percentage. So 65% of the time they're passing it on their own. I do like this number. It is fairly low. It is just 4 catches in a game that they should be playing from behind. It is a little chalky, which is why I'm putting 1.5 units on it. But Gesicki over 4.5, where they could be down 2 scores by halftime, it feels pretty good.
Awesome. I like that. Listen, I've watched every single Tampa Buccaneers game from start to finish, and I know exactly how they play. They're afraid to run on this great D-line. So they have these little short 3 to 5 yard plays, try to get their players out in space, and it's a great opportunity to kind of hammer these here.
And really, really quickly before we move on, I mentioned this in a tweet earlier today. So I think Gaskin is out the next 3 weeks, and Malcolm Brown is going to step in. Malcolm Brown, he was kind of the third down back for this my Rams team the last 2 years. He did score once 2 weeks ago. I don't expect any running back to score on the Bucs, but I think his odds are something like plus 340 to get a touchdown. For a guy who's going to see about 60% of the snaps, it's just really good value. So if you're throwing out long shot TD parlays, think about Malcolm Brown as someone who can really spruce it up because he's going to be out there. He can pass protect, and they're going to be behind.
I like that. And I like this play with Gesicki too. I mean, look, I was on Waddle last week. I was on over 3.5 receptions. I think he had 3 at the end of the first quarter and then maybe 1 or 2 targets the rest of the game. But yeah, this game totally reads as Jacoby Brissett with like 25 to 28 completions for maybe 200 yards. I mean, Gesicki's got a pretty broad route tree, but with Brissett specifically, it's just those quick hitters. I think, like you said, he's leading the Dolphins in target share. Since Brissett took over, I like this play a lot.
Awesome. Cool. What's the first play that you have for us this weekend?
Yeah, so I am going to a rookie quarterback, which always scares me, Trevor Lawrence, but with his legs, over 18.5 rush yards. So the last 2-3 weeks, so in the preseason, Urban Meyer, who's made very questionable decisions in general, we'll just leave it at that the past few weeks. But one of the things he did in the preseason and week 1 was keep Trevor Lawrence in the pocket. And one of the things that makes Trevor Lawrence, which we saw at Clemson, is his rushing ability. He can extend the pocket. He can make things happen with his legs. I mean, we saw him at, BCS games running for 40-yard touchdowns. I mean, he's 6'6", but he is fast. Yes. So what they've now implemented over the past 2 weeks, which we saw last Thursday night, a lot of, is the zone read. Not only has it opened up lanes for James Robinson, which is again, fantastic because they weren't using him really too much in the first 2 weeks. But it's also allowing Trevor to move around a little bit. So in the last 2 weeks, he's had 9 designed rushes, 6 coming last week, 3 the week before. So you factor in the fact that he'll probably have some of those zone read plays against the Titans. And yeah, so I figure he'll have about 3 design rush plays, and then obviously he can scramble as well. So those 2 facets, 18.5, it's just so low. I think he could legitimately crush this by halftime.
Yeah, and he broke out last week, at least with the legs. I think he got his first rushing touchdown on Thursday Night Football, which is a trend apparently for quarterbacks. Score on Thursday Night Football, which is pretty cool. Maybe we see Russell Wilson something tonight, but no, that's a great play, man. You could definitely tell that this team is kind of, you don't want to say it's over after week 4, but he's finally settling down. And if he doesn't see anything, he's tucking it and going. DJ Chark is out, so that's one less option that on an already thin team. And he was their deep threat, so I could definitely see him pulling down 3, maybe 4 planned rushes. Not even saying if everything breaks down, can he take off?
Yeah, that's the best part is when you have your offensive coordinator designing planned runs for a quarterback who is more than willing and more than capable of pulling the ball down when he's under duress or doesn't see anything downfield. So I like that play there. I'm going to move over into a new segment that we're implementing on the podcast called Operation Fade. Operation Fade is what I'm doing is I'm looking at the top 4 public bet games, and I'm figuring out which one is the reason the public is going to lose. And for this game, I hate to do it, but I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals +3. Right now, the 75% of the public action is on the Packers -3. The line hasn't really moved too much, which kind of makes you know that Vegas knows they want you to go ahead and take that Packers line. They don't want to push it up. They want to keep it where it's at. No Jair Alexander for the Packers is a lot bigger loss than people are probably accounting for. You have to imagine this is the 3-headed monster. Even let's say T. Higgins doesn't go, but with or without T. Higgins, they have an opportunity to have a 3-headed legitimate receiving option in this Bengals team. This Bengals team at home in their last 7, 5-7 against the spread. Their defense has improved. But what a really big improvement for this team is, and I think it kind of leaks into the offensive line, is their swagger. That's one of those things that you can't measure. You can't measure the attitude in the locker room, and that has changed. And when you start having guys like Joe Burrow come in here, or Jamar Chase, and even at the beginning of the season, Jamar Chase was being doubted, saying he couldn't catch, and now my man is a walking touchdown. When you have guys who are bringing that winning attitude, they're national champions at LSU. When you have guys bringing that attitude into the locker room, it starts to bleed over to the rest of the groups, the position groups, the offensive linemen. You see this offensive line has improved. Heck, even the defensive line has improved. This defense is averaging 16 points per game allowed. I really do think that, if they lose this one, it's going to be one because they don't start fast and they're scrambling to come back and make it close. I think they're a live dog here. I think that the public is just so enamored with Aaron Rodgers and this team that they forget how bad defense they are. Look at the Packers who they played. They played the 49ers. The 49ers, they barely beat the 49ers when Trey Lance had to come into the game. They played the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions were giving them a run for their money all the game, but, Detroit Lions got in their own way, just like always. And they also played against the New Orleans Saints, who that win is looking more and more ugly every week when we see that New Orleans Saints has 0 offensive capabilities outside of dumping it short to Alvin Kamara. So I'm going to go ahead and fade the public here and back the Cincinnati Bengals +3.
It's interesting, and I had the same questions as you. Why? Why is this 3? On a neutral field, okay, it's 6. Then you start looking into it and thinking about it. Well, the Bengals had a couple extra days to prepare. All right, that makes a little bit of sense. Okay, Zach Taylor and LaFleur from the same coaching tree. Okay, there's some familiarity there. You have a young, hungry team in this, this Burrow-led offense that could be a wild card potentially. Maybe we see 9 wins, maybe you see 10 wins, and you have an opportunity to prove yourself against an Aaron Rodgers. So 3 points at home, it didn't make sense to me when I saw the line, which is why Operation Fade is something that we do. I don't hate it. I'm going to be honest with you, man. Joe Mixon being out is a little bit worrisome. They did say they're going to go running back by committee. So Perrine and what's the other guy's name? Is it Davis?
They have I can't even remember. I'm listen. I'm a big fantasy guy, and I've grabbed Huron in every single league. And there's 2 leagues where I'm going to put him in the flex. He is a more than capable replacement. Joe Mixon being out for me was kind of like that equalizer. And they lose Jair Alexander for their defense, although they don't correlate directly in head-to-head matchups. But it's kind of like that cheek in the armor on the offense, cheek in the armor on the defense. I'm still going to go ahead and back this team. I just don't see them covering all this talent. I mean, we're just blinded.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Packers secondary with Jair Alexander was struggling. I mean, he's fantastic, but you lose him, and that's half the field that was covered that now you have to really worry about. Like you said, Jamar Chase looks fantastic. Tyler Boyd is super reliable. CJ Uzomah, I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, he looked great last week too in the absence of T. Higgins. If they get Higgins back, I mean, that's 4 very capable pass catchers for Burrow's disposal versus a weak secondary. And then on the flip side, what I'm looking at is the Bengals rush defense, which looked great the first 3 weeks. Not so great last week versus Robinson and my guy Lawrence. But this week, Aaron Jones, he's been up and down as a rusher this year. I know, he's put up some numbers as a receiver, but I'm looking to see if the Bengals can make that offense one-dimensional. Yes, it's Aaron Rodgers. Yes, he's fantastic, but I like this to be a close game. So I like your operation fade here.
Awesome. All right, Bobby, lay on your next play for us, man.
I'm obviously going to bet the 9 a.m. London Jets-Falcons game. How could you not start your weekend, waking up at 8, putting on a pot of coffee and throwing football on? All right, I got Jamison Crowder over 4.5 receptions at -135. Again, it's more chalk, but I guess that's my theme now. Crowder only played 1 game this season and immediately became Zach Wilson's favorite target. He led the team in targets with 9. He finished with 70 receptions. He only played 62% of the snaps. They're easing him back in. I think that's going to go up a little bit more in this following week. So he got 26% of the target share. I think implied odds with the target share and what Wilson's attempts are, I project Crowder at another 9 targets. I had people say to me, Bob, but Elijah Moore is back. I hate to break it to you. Elijah Moore wasn't lining up in the slot. Braxton Berrios was. So I'm not scared that Elijah Moore is coming back. And then the Atlanta Falcons ranked 27th in opponent completion percentage. It doesn't really hurt. I think that this line going forward after this week, we're going to start seeing Crowder flirt with 5.5 receptions. I think he's going to end up being the number 1 target, at least wide receiver-wise in this offense. And it really makes a rookie quarterback's job easier when you have someone who can immediately get open. If that's your first read, it definitely settles you down and starts moving the chains. So Crowder at 4.5. Last year, his lines were 5.5, 6.5. I like it why it's low. So as long as it's at 4.5, I don't mind laying 1.5 units at -135.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, if there's one thing that Zach Wilson needs, it's a safety valve, and that's what Crowder's going to be for him. There's going to be quick hitters, until that offensive line finds its footing and the offense as a whole finds its footing. I think Wilson is definitely going to lean on Crowder. I really like this play, even though super early London game, weird things always happen, but the Jets will have to be throwing the ball at some point. The Falcons' rush defense actually isn't too terrible. So, yeah, I like this play a lot.
Yeah, I like it. You kind of touched on it I'm not really going to go ahead and praise the Falcons at any point during this podcast, but I'm going to kind of talk about Carter in the Jets' inability to run the ball. They haven't really got things going on the ground, and I don't think they need to. I think they just need a guy to kind of pick up those first downs when it's 3rd and short in a Jamison Crowder, a guy who's a safety valve, a reliable target. I remember last season, Jamison Crowder's his reception props started to get so high that I was like, I can't honestly back these. And like you said, as long as they're low, I'm down to join. Awesome.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
No, what do you got for us?
My turn?
Yes, sir.
Next play? All right, so I will caveat this play with the fact that this guy has not practiced the last 2 days, but I still think he might play. So my next play, Arizona Cardinals, Chase Edmonds over 3.5 receptions. So last year, part-time player, really playing behind Kenyon Drake more as a change of pace back. When he saw the field, he was seeing a target every 5 routes that he ran. So 20% of the routes he ran, Chase Edmonds was getting the ball thrown to him. This season, obviously an increased workload. I know he still splits time with James Conner, but he's played over 60% of the snaps in each game. So this season, despite the increased workload, he is still seeing a target every 5 throws from Kyler Murray, who has a million weapons at his disposal. DeAndre Hopkins, Rondale Moore, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, even Max Williams has become, a decent target for him. But the one thing that has stayed constant is Kyler Murray throwing the ball to Chase Edmonds. So going back to last season, when Edmonds does see at least 40% of the snaps, he has hit this 3.5 reception line 9 of 12 times, including all 4 this season. It's not going to take many targets. His route tree isn't, crazy. He's not getting deep balls thrown to him. He only needs maybe 6 targets at the most to hit this. He's hit it twice this year, I think, with just 4 and 5 targets. This game projects to be a shootout. There should be some sneaky pace to it. Both teams like to play fast. I think all facets of both sides of the ball, running and passing for both the Niners and the Cardinals will be in play. If Edmonds is healthy, watch it, because that's obviously very important. If he does play, I do like this. And even if he is limited in plays, I still like this because I think he will just be the pass catching back and Connor will get even more rushing work than he has.
No, it makes sense, man. You're seeing this guy kind of unfold as a potential. He's definitely taking a leap. He's definitely taking the leap within this offense. James Conner is kind of snagging goal line carries, but as far as being that pass catching back, when you have these targets like Nuke Hopkins and AJ Green who can stretch the field, it just leaves that underneath open so much more. So, man, I like this.
Exactly. You can't, when you're thinking about the Cardinals passing attack, you're not going to really game plan to stop Chase Edmonds. I mean, you're going to try to stop everybody, but you're not going to leave a DeAndre Hopkins or a Christian Kirk open or in one-on-one coverage just to be able to stop Chase Edmonds on the underneath route. So, with more help over the top, like you said, comes more opportunity, in the flat or on the screen.
I absolutely love that play. I'm hoping he's in because I'm going to go ahead and tail that. I'm going to put my last play, which initially was my favorite play. I got it at a little bit lower price, and it was pre-thunderstorm in the forecast, so I have actually scaled it down just to 1 unit. But I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills team total first half over 13.5. It opened at 12.5, but it was still juiced to the minus 120 is what I locked it in. I like it regardless of the weather. So the reason why I'm taking it regardless of the weather, everyone thinks that, Josh Allen and this crazy big arm of him with Stephon Diggs, they're not really a deep ball offense. If you think about it, they're ranked 24th in the NFL in yards per passing attempt. The number's still at 6.5, but it's one of those they're one of those teams that can really grind you and pick up the yards when necessary instead of just constantly relying on the deep balls and taking those shots. That bodes really well for weather games. And when you have a quarterback who might be uncomfortable throwing the ball in the rain. So let's think about the Patriots versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where Tom Brady was really uncomfortable throwing the ball in the rain. They were having difficulties moving the chains because Tom Brady wasn't picking up those yards with his legs. And the one time he did, he had that 6-yard run and moved the chains. Well, Josh Allen's going to have free reign to go ahead and run the ball whenever he wants if he feels like he's uncomfortable in making any of those throws. That 13.5 hit in every single game of the Kansas City Chiefs except for Philadelphia. In that Philadelphia game in the first half, they had 2 drives that stalled out on the 8. One had a touchdown called back. I said this earlier. This Kansas City Chiefs defense is god-awful, and I'm going to keep picking on them defensively all season until they correct it. This 29th ranked defense is allowing 16.5 first half points per game. The total is indicating that it's going to be a high overall scoring set at 56. And the first half is set at 28.5. It's moved down a little bit because of the rain, but I still think that there's a very good chance that we see a 14 put up here pretty early. I looked at the first half total, and even the first quarter total is a little juiced, which tells you that they think they're going to score at least 7 in the first half. Now the first quarter, now I have an entire quarter to go get 7 more against a very god-awful defense who is not doing anything right and a hot team that's out to prove it. I think we see a shootout, and so if for anybody who's been following me across this crazy Chiefs journey, I am on Chiefs money line. I'm on Bills +9 and team total. And I think there's a awesome opportunity to hit all three and a fantastic betting sequence there.
I smell a same game parlay somewhere in there, man.
Yeah, I think it's got to happen.
If you can put all that together, I think you're on to something. But no, it seems like a very reasonable number. I'm shocked that it's at least at plus odds, especially for these two offenses, one with a god-awful defense. So 13.5, 2 touchdowns in the first half. Seems good to me.
Yeah, maybe I undersold the Chiefs defense when I just called them bad in the beginning of this, but we've escalated to awful, which honestly is appropriate because they've been really bad. I'm pretty sure they're the worst rush defense and bottom 10 pass defense, and they're letting opponents, I think, the third longest drive per game average. It's just it just seems like a Josh Allen revenge spot for last year's AFC Championship game. And look, if they get down to the 8 like the Eagles did last week, I mean, Josh Allen will put it in himself. They're not going to stall out once, let alone twice, if they get that far down there. But I like it. I like the Bills' efficient offense versus the Kansas City inefficient defense. I like this play a lot.
For the last team total that I took on the podcast for the first half, one thing that I talked about that is really important when you're backing first half totals is time on the field spent by the offense. For the Chiefs, their offense is one of the lower teams spent with time on the field because they're quick plays, big plays, which really helps out this play. You want the offense of the team that you're backing to have the ball in their hands for the maximum amount of time, and it's just such a dream scenario. If it wasn't raining, it would be a multi-unit play.
Maybe that's why their defense is so bad and Andy Reid just hasn't figured it out, because their offense is on the field for 30 seconds a clip and their defense is just gassed. Something to think about. Call me, Andy.
He has a job waiting for you. Awesome. You have a touchdown plays for us?
I mean, we were scouring the lines. At this point when we're recording, there wasn't too much up there. Nick Chubb at -109, I really love. And then Mike Gesicki, because we talked about it. It's the target share. It's playing from behind. It's constantly passing with the ball. The Bucs have given up 3 touchdowns so far this season to opposing tight ends. So at +320 as a number 1 target in that offense, it seems too good to be true because you're not running on the Bucs and you're going to be playing from behind. So I do like Gesicki at +320. I do like Chubb at -109 as well. But there's not much out there at the time of recording. We may have more throughout the week where we can publish a group parlay.
Yes, I like that. Well, guys, I'm so glad that I get to, share this opportunity and talk football with you guys. Doug, I'm glad that you came on the podcast. So I'm going to invite everyone to follow Doug at PropBetGuy. I know you guys already do, so I don't know what I'm inviting you for, but if you want to follow me, it's at Mr. Brad Thomas. If you want to follow Bobby, it's at PropHolliday. And if you want to follow the podcast and follow along and wait for our team touchdown little parlay we're going to put together, it's at Bankroll Blitz with a Z, and that's PropHolliday with 2 L's. Guys, thank you again, and be sure to download the podcast. Take care.
Thank you, guys.